water damage on the top, missing drawer pulls, and an outdated finish. This dresser had a lot of things that we needed to address. I did find a brand logo on this one. It was a Calzone. How do you say that? Calzone Europe. I don't know. And on the day that I decide to do this dresser, it is a full 12 hours of nonstop drizzle. How does that happen? So I did have a moment where I was able to step outside and at least clean off some of the grime and try to sand, but to no avail because it started sprinkling on me again. But here is a first look of this old girl, and she needs lots of love. But she has good bones. I started by removing all of those drawer pulls that were broken and actually found some interesting things inside. So this little box had a little boutonniere set that was dried. I wonder if it was prom or maybe an anniversary. There was also an envelope addressed to Chris and Sherry. So I decided I'm going to name this dresser Cherie. Yeah, I think that's a pretty fitting name. And I spent a whole lot of time trying to shimmy that drawer open because I kept closing it like a silly goose. Unfortunately, I did have to move inside, but I determined I was going to get some sanding done today. By the way, don't ever let anyone tell you flipping furniture doesn't pay. I've definitely made 4 cents on Cherie already. Cha-ching! I removed the drawers and wrote on the back their placement in the dresser, because then you can put them back exactly the way that they came and they will line up much better, because if you get them out of order, sometimes they don't line up as easily. Obviously, no sanding is getting done now because it is drizzly sprinkling outside, so I opted to use my carbide scraper, and boy, was that satisfying and hard work, and my hands are going to be in a lot of pain tomorrow. And still raining. My next best thing was to sand the drawer fronts underneath my awning on my front steps, and I started with an 80 grit sandpaper, and then I came back and did 120 and 220, and I got the front of the drawers back to the bare wood, and it was kind of an interesting wood grain. And honestly, at this point, you think I would tell you what I was planning to do with this dresser, but I wasn't exactly decided. But as I was revealing this wood grain, I thought, there's no way I can cover this up. It's too pretty. So the rest of the dresser, unfortunately, did need to be painted because it was a failing finish, lots of damage, and I did use a lot of Bondo to repair different scratches and holes. And finally, the sunshine came out, and it is time to sand the base, fill those holes with Bondo, and get this girl on her way. Here's a pro tip for you. If you have 2 sanders, you can have your fine grit on one and a coarser grit on the other, and it saves you having to change your sandpaper, which is kind of helpful. So Cherie has had a rough life. These drawer slides were pretty damaged, almost all of them, and so I did go in and use some wood glue and clamps and got them back to working properly, and thankfully wasn't needing to replace them. I did need to fill this nice large gouge in the base with some Bondo, and I want to fill in this like weird crack in the top. I think that's just like a trend for a while, and it just kind of collects dirt and junk and kind of dates the piece. And so I'm going to fill that in and just make it a smooth finish on the top. And to do that, I am using Bondo because it is really a hard finish. It's a really hard finish, more so than a wood filler would be. And I recently saw, I'm going to try it next time, but where someone took like a frog tape and actually lined the side of where they wanted to put the Bondo, and that way they didn't make a big sloppy mess, because I actually took a very long time to sand all this Bondo down, and it took me a while and it was a lot of work, so I'm gonna definitely try that hack next time. Let me know if you've tried that with the painter's tape. And now it is finally time. After wiping off all the dust from sanding, it's time to paint Cherie a beautiful Rust-Oleum black in a satin finish. She is sad and she is tired, but she is about to have a brand new life. I often have used the Rust-Oleum chalked paint for pieces like this, but I just don't like it in the black or charcoal color. It's really hard to apply, and I switched over to this Painter's Touch Rust-Oleum in black satin finish, and I really like it so much. So I do still use the matte top coat. You'll see me putting that on here in a moment, but I just wanted to say, if I was to review the product, I would definitely give 5 stars to the Painter's Touch Rust-Oleum, because it is so much easier to work with, especially in this color. I did use, I think, 3 to 4 coats. So next, this part I'm very excited about. I made a paint wash of beige paint with about 30% paint, like 70% water. And I just lined up all the drawers and painted them with the paint wash, and then wiped it back. And I am loving this trend. Not always am I into the trends, but this one I'm a fan. It still shows the beautiful wood grain, and yet it kind of neutralizes that orange color in the wood, which is kind of really on the out, so nobody's into the orange color right now. So it's that kind of beige natural wood look, and I think it worked perfectly. So as I'm doing this beige wash, my next decision is what drawer pulls to use. And here I'm applying the matte top coat to the whole piece, so that's the fronts of the drawers as well as the base, the top. All of it is going to get a coat of that. So I bought these drawer pulls on Amazon, and I was not completely sold on them, but I'm gonna just give it a go and see how it looks. Oh, and here's my helper. We had to take a cuddle break. You know, just, you got to do that every once in a while. And something I've been doing lately is tinting my top coat. So I did use some of the black paint in that matte clear top coat, and that really has made a huge difference in application. So of course I'm using several top coats on the top of the dresser, because that surface is going to need lots of durability. And here's how the pulls look that I had picked out. What do you think? Let me know, because I'm not completely sold on them. And my last part of the project is to put on the paneling that I bought for the back. So after painstakingly removing the staples that were there, I cut down this paneling to size, and I didn't know if I had enough, but I ended up having like a 2-inch strip, the width of the board, left. So I'd say that was a pretty good estimation of how much I needed. And here you see me regretting the life choice to turn my brother down when he offered to go in with me on a brad nailer. No, I thought, I'm never going to use one of those. I don't need a brad nailer. I'll just use a hammer and teeny weeny nails. Yeah, I can do it. I won't smash my finger 367 million times. Anyway, now that that's over, applying the drawer liners is the most satisfying part, like the finishing touch. And just to remind you what Cherie looked like before, who knows what kind of life she led, we're about to give her an extreme makeover, dresser edition. Here we are.